Am I the asshole for what I said after my husband commented on my flat chest? My husband, Jared. No. I don't know. What if she said something really bad? It could have been really mean. You're about to see.
But that doesn't justify commenting on someone's body.
This is true. My husband, Jared, and I have been married for 3 years. He's currently out of work, used to work at a high-paying job, but got kicked out of the company over a fight with a coworker, and I'm the one paying for rent and utilities. We dedicate some time to seeing his family weekly. They don't know he's unemployed because he thought they'll see him as a failure, especially his mom, so he told me to keep it a secret. Last night, we were sitting, eating dinner at the table. His cousin was talking about his fiancée going to Brazil to do a boob job. Jared asked if he was serious, then flattered future sister-in-law's boobs, saying they're perfect and that he didn't understand why she'd get a boob job. He then turned to me, stared at my chest while I was eating. I have a flat chest. I'm insecure about it, but don't do anything about it, obviously, and said, quote, "Hey, why don't you get a boob job? You're the one who needs it the most." His mom gasped and was like, "Jared." I then turned to him and said, quote, "I'll get a boob job once you get an actual job since you've been unemployed for 6 months now." He stared at me in disbelief.
Honestly, like he deserves it.
His mom began questioning him about being unemployed, and he denied. Then
he kept lying.
Admitted it was true. It got awkward with his mom scolding him and others shaming him for it and for hiding it. He got so overwhelmed he went outside and stayed inside the car until I came out. He started yelling at me repeatedly, quote, "You couldn't have held your f***ing tongue." I argued that his comment about my chest was insulting, but he said he was giving me a piece of advice and that there's nothing wrong with him wanting me to look pretty and that he said what he said.
So he doesn't think she looks pretty?
He said what he said out of support and encouragement, but what I did was the complete opposite, and that it was intended to hurt him, and I succeeded. I called him later thinking he calmed down, but his friend said he didn't want to speak to me, and I should give him space.
I feel like she should get divorced.
Give him all the space in the world.
He's obviously a very insecure person.
Well, all of this is like
he's
his
reactive.
own making.
He's a reactive person, and my guess is his reactive personality comes from this insecurity whenever he gets challenged or, the type of person who would call their wife flat chested in public and then make it about I guess essentially gaslight them into making him feel like he was trying to do her a favor.
Yeah. I was supportive. Yeah. I was trying to make you the prettiest you can be.
When people call in for my Ask Nick segments, I would ask her, tell me what you're grateful for in the relationship and tell me how he makes you feel. Yeah. I doubt she'd have a long list of things that she's grateful for.
Am I wrong for telling a social worker the real reason my sister wants a foster kid? I, 28 female, have a sister who's 36. For the sake of the story, I'll just call her Jane. Jane is married to Bob and they have 2 kids, boy and a girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do, but nothing big. I love them. Now for about 2 years, I did live with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor, money, and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part-time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. It was hell as she took complete advantage of me. I moved out as soon as I could and we have little to no contact outside of family gatherings. Now, after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysit sometimes, but I have made it clear just because I'm off work doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid, but a teenager. I pressed her for more info on this, and she said she wants to adopt a teenager so she has a live-in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic. I want a kid around 16 or 17, someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a bedroom with your nephew, she only has a 3-bedroom house, or sleep in the garage. They can help me with housework, chores, cook, and help me with my business. She bakes and sells cookies on the side. Also, babysit the kids so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some time alone. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all. And when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid, and they will be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings if they have been separated from their real ones, and clothes. What the hell? How do people think of this shit? What am I reading? I was horrified, told her it was a horrible idea, but she didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyways. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady then thanked me. My sister called crying, saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they thought her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything, and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. A couple family members are on her side. They think foster kids are effing dogs or something and would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. So, am I wrong here? What? Ugh. Don't have kids if you can't take care of them. Like, it's not, you don't have to have kids if you have, what? People are fucking stupid.
Pooped on my boyfriend's bed after I found out he was cheating on me, and I lit his car on fire. Disclaimers in my story time instead of me on Instagram. My boyfriend and I met in high school. He chased me for about 3 years. This man would tell me every single day that he was in love with me. This was before Instagram, so he would contact me every single day through Facebook. He would send me his favorite songs. He would write me poems. I mean, you can tell this guy was totally obsessed, right? After 4 years of this, I finally said yes to a date. And the only reason I kept saying no was because I knew somebody that had dated him, and they told me that he was crazy. I just didn't want to believe it because he seemed so perfect over Facebook. At the time, I was living in Manhattan, so I told him that I wanted the date to be in the city. So he took me to watch a show on Broadway. First off, I was really impressed that he could even afford the tickets because they were to a very expensive show. And before the show, he took me to a really nice dinner. And he proceeded to order everything on the menu. 5 appetizers, 4 main entrees, and a bunch of drinks. The bill came out to about $600. I offered to help him pay, but he said no, as he should. The entire date was really amazing. The only thing that I know now was a red flag is that he was kind of rude to the waiter. Of course, I didn't mention it. Fast forward a few months, and he asked me to be his girlfriend. Now, to be honest, I was dating a few other guys at the time, and they were all really great, but none of them wanted a serious relationship, and that's what I was looking for. So I finally said yes to my ex. Around that time, I started competing in pageants, and I got very far. I went to Miss USA. Can you guess who I am? He loved this. Part 2 is up. I pooped on my boyfriend's bed after I found out he was cheating on me and lit his car on fire. Disclaimers in my story time was sent on my Instagram. After he asked me to be his girlfriend, I decided to start competing in pageants, and I got pretty far. I won my state and went on to Miss USA. At that point, my ex and I had been together for about a year. To my face, he always told me that he was so proud of me. He loved that I was so dedicated and disciplined. To get ready to compete, I would work out twice a day. I also had a bunch of classes and held down a full-time job. Here's when things start getting complicated. One night, our friends had a get-together at their house. Our entire friend group were there, and I invited my best friend. Now, my best friend has always had my back. He is my ride or die. Her and I went to the kitchen to get some drinks, and when she went back to where my boyfriend was standing, she overheard the conversation he was having with another friend. Apparently, my boyfriend was telling the other friend that I was crazy, that he thought I had eating disorders because I would work out so much, and that I thought I was better than everybody else because I was competing for Miss USA. My best friend ran over to the kitchen to tell me everything she heard. At first, I thought, are you sure he wasn't joking? She said no, he was completely serious. I was really hurt. Instead of waiting for the party to be over, I confronted him right then and there. Asked him if he was talking bad about me, and then he said no, of course not. And I told him the whole conversation that my best friend overheard. But I told him that I was the one that overheard the conversation. That's when he started gaslighting me. He said that I was overreacting, that I had completely twisted his words. I asked him exactly what he said, and he told me he couldn't remember. I asked him point blank if he felt envious of me, and he said no. He said, you have to get over yourself if you think you're that important. Part 3 is I pooped on my boyfriend's bed after I found out he was cheating on me and lit his car on fire. Disclaimers is not my story time, it's sent me on Instagram. After I caught him talking bad about me, he denied everything. And he also told me that I needed to get over myself. I grabbed my best friend and went home. That means my boyfriend stayed at the party by himself. Well, guess what he does? He goes out of his way to find a girl to hook up with. And I know this now because a few of my friends who were at the party saw everything go down. Apparently, after I left, he started scouting all the girls. He would go up to each one of them and talk to them. Finally, he went upstairs with one of them. I mean, he couldn't even go somewhere else. He had to do it in front of all of our friends. Multiple people watched this all happen, and most of them knew that we had gotten into a fight before. One of the girls that was at the party actually messaged me and told me that my boyfriend was in the bedroom with another girl. So I ran back to the party. He was already downstairs at that point, but I asked him if it was true. At this point, he had a lot to drink. That's when he starts word vomiting, telling me that he had hooked up with girls that were way better than I was, and that I was so consumed with my pageant competition and that I was too skinny. Then he just started listing all of the girls that he had slept with, and 2 of them were my friends who were at the party. What I did next next is probably not the best idea, but I did it. I grabbed a bottle of alcohol and went outside with the lighter. I poured it all over his car and set it on fire. Then I got back into my car with my best friend and went to his apartment. And it just so happens that I needed to poop at the time. So I thought just to do it in his bed. So I squatted over his bed and did my business. Then he messaged me telling me that he was going to press charges on me for his car. Luckily, nobody told on me, so he had zero proof. And luckily, his car was fine. A few months later, he messaged me apologizing. He said that I was the best thing that ever happened to him. But I ignored his messages. No, I didn't win Miss USA, but I'm proud of myself for what I did to him. Bye.
I never meant to make it by myself. Stuck between the ego and the devil and yourself. Got these habits, but I'll never ask for help. Just following my feelings, cause I love the way you felt. I can give you love, and it can give you time. It can make you smile, and I will make you cry. The only things in common when we talk about the past. I will be your first, and he will be the last. Are you thinking about him when you're kissing me now? Feeling like you're slipping away. There's no doubt good in the word goodbye, but there's so much more to stay. So blame it all on me, darling. See I let you down. Blame it all on me, darling. See I'm never around.
Storytime. My boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years, but we were on and off all the time. It was a super toxic relationship. Like, he would try to get with other girls and I would try to get with other guys to make him jealous, blah, blah, blah. Well, a week before Christmas, him and I broke up again. And I had my best friend sleep over that whole week because her parents were in Ireland. And my boyfriend lived right down the street from me. Like, it was probably a 2-minute walk to his house. Well, for the first 3 nights, my best friend would go on a jog every night, and she would be gone for like 2 hours. I would literally have to go unlock the door at 1 a.m. for her to get back in my house. Well, I think the 3rd night that she slept over, she came back in different clothes. And I realized that the sweatshirt she was wearing was my boyfriend's favorite sweatshirt. But I didn't really think anything of it because she never really showed interest in my boyfriend. But clearly I was oblivious. Anyways. So that same night, I wake up in the middle of the night and she's on the phone with someone. And it sounded exactly like my boyfriend. So I asked her who it was, but she couldn't give me an answer, like for part 2. Part 2 of how my boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend. So she told me not to worry about it, and I was like, alright, whatever. So the next day, my boyfriend shows up at my house asking to get back together. Not a surprise, by the way. And of course I said, okay, we can be back together, blah, blah, blah. So that night while I'm in my room, my best friend's on the phone, and she has her AirPods in, so I couldn't hear who it was. And she was like, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And when I asked her where she was going, she wouldn't tell me. Well, she left her phone at my house. And because she usually tells me everything, I thought that something sus was going on. So I went through her phone. And I see that she's been texting this guy Jay a lot. And as I'm going through their conversation, there's one text that says, I don't care if she finds out. Just sneak over to my house while you're there. So I check the phone numbers and obviously it's my boyfriend. And her parents are really strict, like she was only supposed to be at my house that week, nowhere else. So I may have made up some stories that she had drugs in her bag and that she was forcing me to do drugs with her. So her parents came home early from their trip, they sent her to military school and I broke up with my boyfriend.